My family mocked me at my sister's engagement dinner, until her fiancé saluted me in front of everyone. My sister laughed the moment I walked into her engagement dinner. Not a small laugh. Not the kind of laugh someone gives when they are surprised or happy to see you. It was the kind of laugh that makes people stop what they are doing and turn their heads. The kind of laugh that tells everyone in the room that you are the joke. I stood at the entrance of my father's house, holding a small gift bag in my hand. Inside it was a wristwatch I had bought for her fiancé. Nothing too expensive, but nothing cheap either. It was simple, classy, and decent. I had spent 3 weeks choosing it because I wanted to bring something meaningful. But before I could even greet properly, my younger sister, Amora, looked at my shirt, looked at my old black shoes, looked at the gift bag in my hand, and burst out laughing. "Please," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't embarrass me today. My fiancé is a real officer. Try and behave like someone who has sense." The room went quiet for 1 second. Then people started laughing. Some covered their mouths. Some turned away like they were trying to be polite, but their shoulders were shaking. My mother looked down at the tray in her hand. My father cleared his throat and adjusted himself on the chair, but he said nothing. And me? I just stood there. I stood there, holding the gift I had spent my own money on, wondering how the same little girl I once carried on my back to school had grown into someone who could shame me in front of strangers. I looked at Amora. She was dressed beautifully that evening. Her makeup was perfect. Her hair was styled like she had stepped out of a bridal magazine. She wore a gold dress that caught the light every time she moved. She looked happy. She looked proud. She looked like the kind of woman who had finally reached the place she had been dreaming of. And maybe that was why she felt she had the right to laugh at me. To her, I was the brother who had disappeared for years and returned with nothing impressive. No big car. No loud title. No wife. No expensive perfume. No designer watch. No photos online. No stories of success. Just a quiet man in a simple shirt, old shoes, and tired eyes. To my family, I was the disappointing son. The one they could not explain to visitors. The one they mentioned only when they had to. The one who never defended himself. The one who always smiled and said, "It is okay," even when it was not okay. But what none of them knew was this. The man Amora was about to introduce as her powerful fiancé was not a stranger to me. In fact, the last time he saw me, he was on the ground, terrified, begging me not to leave him behind. And when he finally walked through that door and saw my face, everything changed. But before that moment came, I had to survive one of the most painful evenings of my life. My name is Daniel Okafor. I am the first son of my family. In many homes, being the first son means respect. It means people look at you as a pillar. It means your younger ones see you as a guide. It means your parents speak your name with pride. But in my family, being the first son became a burden I carried quietly. When I was young, my father believed I would become a doctor. My mother believed I would become an engineer. My relatives believed I would be the one to lift the family name. I was good in school. I was disciplined. I rarely caused trouble. I was the kind of child adults praised because I was calm and serious. But life does not always follow the plan people write for you. After secondary school, things became difficult at home. My father's business started failing. My mother's shop was no longer bringing in enough money. School fees became a problem. Food became a calculation. Even ordinary transport money became something we had to discuss. Amora was still young then. She was bright, stubborn, and full of dreams. She used to follow me everywhere. If I went to buy bread, she followed me. If I went to fetch water, she followed me. If I sat outside to read, she would sit beside me and ask questions until I got tired. She used to call me my big shield. Whenever children in the compound disturbed her, she would run behind me and shout, "My brother will beat you." I never beat anybody for her, but I always stood in front of her. That was how I loved her. Quietly. Fully. Without asking for anything back. When our family finances got worse, I made a decision nobody really understood. I paused my own education. I told my parents I would work for a while so Amora could continue school. My father protested at first, but not strongly. He was already tired. My mother cried, but she accepted it. Amora did not understand then. She was too young. She only knew that her brother suddenly stopped wearing school uniforms and started coming home late. I took every honest job I could find. I worked at a warehouse. I helped load goods in a market. I worked with a security company for a short period. I did delivery jobs. I did night shifts. I did whatever paid enough to keep something moving at home. Every time Amora needed money for school, I found it. When she needed textbooks, I found them. When she needed exam fees, I paid. When she entered university, I was the one who sent the first major deposit. But I never told her the full story. I did not want her to feel guilty. I did not want her to think her future was built on my sacrifice. I only wanted her to succeed. Then one day, I joined a government security unit. It started as a basic recruitment. Nothing special at first. The pay was not much, but it was stable. I told my family I had found security work. That was all they understood, and honestly, that was all I wanted them to understand. But as time passed, I was selected for additional training. Then another. Then another. I learned discipline beyond ordinary discipline. I learned silence. I learned how to read a room. I learned how to stay calm when everyone else was panicking. I learned how to take responsibility without applause. Some assignments were normal. Some were not. Some took me far away from home for months. Sometimes I could call. Sometimes I could not. Sometimes I sent money through a friend and begged him not to mention where I was. The less my family knew, the safer they were. That was what I told myself. But distance has a cost. When you are not around to explain your life, people create their own explanation. At first, my family said I was busy. Then they said I was struggling. Then they said I was wasting my life. Then they said I had become ordinary. And eventually, they stopped asking. Amora grew up. She finished school. She started working. She became polished, social, and proud. She moved with people who spoke loudly about success. People who valued appearance. People who judged a person by car keys, wristwatches, and phone models. The little girl who once hid behind me slowly became a woman who was embarrassed by me. It did not happen in one day. It happened in small moments. The first time I noticed it was at a family gathering 2 years before her engagement. A cousin asked what I was doing for work, and before I could answer, Amora laughed and said, "He is doing security something. You know those quiet government people." Everybody laughed. I smiled. Another time, she asked me not to come to her office because she did not want her colleagues asking too many questions. I said okay. Another time, I sent her money when she was short on rent. She collected it and simply replied, "Thanks." No call. No warmth. No memory of the years I carried her needs like my own. Still, I did not complain. I kept telling myself, she is young. She will understand later. But some people only understand when life forces them to sit down and look at what they have done. The engagement dinner was supposed to be a happy event. My mother had called me 3 weeks before. "Daniel," she said, "your sister's fiancé is coming officially. Please try and come." I heard the hesitation in her voice when she said try. It was not because she missed me. It was because she feared I might show up looking too simple. I almost told her I would not come. But then I thought of Amora as a little girl, running barefoot through the compound, shouting my name because she had fallen and scraped her knee. I thought of the nights she slept while I counted money under a candlelight, deciding whether to buy her textbook or repair my only good shoes. I thought of the day she entered university and hugged me so tightly that I nearly cried. So I said, "I will come." On the day of the dinner, I stood in front of my small mirror for a long time. I had better clothes, but I did not want attention. I chose a clean navy shirt, dark trousers, and black shoes that had served me for years. They were old, yes, but polished. I trimmed my hair. I shaved. I packed the gift carefully. Before leaving, I looked at myself and smiled. I did not look rich. I did not look powerful. But I looked like myself. And at that time, that was enough for me. When I arrived at the house, the compound was full of cars. Expensive ones. The kind people park in a way that says, "Look at what I drove here." Music was playing softly. Caterers were moving around. Women were laughing. Men were discussing politics and business. Children were running between chairs. The house looked better than I remembered. Fresh paint. New lights. New curtains. New chairs. It was clear that Amora wanted the evening to look important. I entered quietly. My father saw me first. He was sitting with two older men near the entrance. When his eyes met mine, I expected him to smile. Instead, he looked me up and down. "Daniel," he said. Just my name. No excitement. No welcome. No, my son. I greeted him and the men. One of them asked, "Is this your first son?" My father paused for half a second. "Yes," he said. "He is my first son." The way he said it sounded like he was confessing a problem. The men nodded politely. One asked me what I did. Before I could answer, my father said, "He works with security people." Security people. Not even my actual unit. Not even my rank. Not even the respect of saying, "He serves." Just security people. The men nodded again, but I saw the judgment in their eyes. To them, I was not worth much conversation. I smiled and moved inside. That was when Amora saw me. And that was when she laughed. "Please," she said, still smiling. "Daniel, I hope you did not come here to sit in front. My fiancé's people are coming. Important people. Just stay somewhere simple." People laughed again. I looked at her for a moment. There are words that slap harder than hands. That sentence was one of them. I wanted to remind her of everything. I wanted to tell her that when she had no school shoes, I wore slippers for 2 months so she could have them. I wanted to tell her that when she was sick in university, I sold my phone to send money for her treatment. I wanted to tell her that when she cried because she thought she would drop out, I promised her she would graduate even though I did not know how I would make it happen. But I said none of that. I simply smiled. "Congratulations, Amora," I said. She looked at the gift bag in my hand. "What is that?" "A small gift," I replied. "For who?" "For your fiancé." She laughed again, but this time softer. "You did not need to stress yourself. He is not really the type that uses ordinary things." A few people heard and smiled. I nodded. "You can still give it to him," she added, as if she was doing me a favor. "He is humble." That word hurt me more than the insult. Humble. As if my gift needed charity to be accepted. I walked to a corner and sat down. From there, I watched my family perform respect for strangers. My mother moved around with a smile so wide it looked painful. She greeted every guest like royalty. My father kept adjusting his traditional outfit and laughing loudly at things that were not funny. Amora kept checking her phone, stepping outside, coming back in, and asking whether everything was ready. Nobody asked if I had eaten. Nobody asked how I had been. Nobody asked where I had traveled from. I sat alone, watching the family I had carried quietly treat me like a stain on their celebration. After a while, one of my aunties came and sat beside me. Auntie Grace. She was my mother's elder sister, and she was one of the few people in the family who still spoke to me with kindness. "Daniel," she said softly, "how are you?" "I am fine, Auntie." She looked at me in that way older women look at you when they know you are lying. "You have lost weight." "I am okay." She nodded slowly. "Your sister is happy today. Don't mind her mouth." I smiled. "I don't mind." But I minded. Of course I minded. People always say don't mind them when they are not the ones being humiliated. Auntie Grace sighed. "Your father should know better." I said nothing. She leaned closer. "Some people only respect noise. They don't respect sacrifice." That sentence stayed with me. Some people only respect noise. They don't respect sacrifice. A few minutes later, the room became more active. Someone announced that the fiancé's convoy had arrived. Amora rushed outside. My mother followed. My father stood up and adjusted his cap. Guests began whispering. "He is here. They said he is a decorated officer. I heard he works with a special unit." Very disciplined man. Powerful connection. I stayed seated. Not because I was angry. Because my legs suddenly felt heavy. I did not know the name of Amora's fiancé. She had only told the family he was an officer. She had shown pictures, but I had not really looked. Most of the time, when family messages came in, I replied late. Sometimes I did not open photos. So I did not know. I did not know who was coming. I only knew the room was waiting for a man they already respected before he even entered. That alone made me think. Respect is strange. Some people must bleed quietly for years and still be ignored. Others only need a title, and people stand up before they speak. The front door opened. Amora entered first, smiling like someone who had won a prize. Behind her came 3 men. One older man, likely the fiancé's uncle. One younger man carrying a small box. And then the fiancé. He was tall, calm, and neatly dressed in a dark traditional outfit. His posture was straight. His face was serious but not proud. He moved with the kind of control that trained men usually have. The room welcomed him with admiration. My father stepped forward with both hands open. "My son, welcome." My son. I almost laughed. He had not called me that in years. The fiancé greeted my father respectfully. He greeted my mother. He greeted the elders. He smiled at Amora. Then his eyes moved around the room. Slowly. Professionally. Like he was taking note of every face. Then his eyes reached the corner where I was sitting. And he froze. At first, I thought I was mistaken. His smile faded. His body became still. The room kept talking, but his attention left everyone else. He looked at me like he had seen a ghost. I looked back. And then I recognized him. Captain Tunde Adeyemi. Except the last time I saw him, he was not a captain. He was a young officer with fear in his eyes, dust on his face, and one hand gripping my sleeve like I was the only thing standing between him and death. My chest tightened. Tunde took one step forward. Then another. The room began to notice. Amora frowned. "Tunde," she said. "What is it?" He did not answer. He walked past her. Past my father. Past my mother. Past the elders who were waiting to be greeted properly. He walked straight to me. I stood up slowly. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Tunde stopped in front of me, stood straight, placed his right hand firmly in salute, and said in a voice that filled the room, "Sir." The silence that followed was sharp. Not ordinary silence. The kind of silence that makes people hear their own breathing. Tunde held the salute. I looked at him and felt the weight of years returning. "Tunde," I said quietly. His voice shook slightly. "Sir, I did not know you were here." Amora's face changed. My father's mouth opened a little. My mother held the edge of a chair. One of the elders leaned forward. "Sir," someone whispered. Tunde still had not lowered his hand. I gave a small nod. "At ease." Only then did he drop the salute. But the respect did not leave his face. He turned slightly to the room and said, "You people know him?" My father blinked. "He is my son." Tunde looked at my father. For the first time that evening, my father looked unsure of himself. "Your son?" Tunde repeated. "Yes," my father said. "My first son." Tunde turned back to me, then looked at Amora. "Daniel Okafor is your brother?" Amora swallowed. "Yes," she said. "He is my elder brother." Tunde stared at her like he was trying to understand how she had said those words so casually. Then he turned to the whole room. "This man saved my life." Nobody moved. Nobody laughed. Tunde continued, "Not only mine. Many of us. If not for him, I would not be standing here today." The room became even quieter. I felt every eye on me. I did not want this. That is the truth. Some people dream of moments where everyone who looked down on them finally discovers who they are. They imagine the shock, the regret, the apology. But when it happens in real life, it does not always feel sweet. Sometimes it feels heavy. Because all you can think is, why did it take this for them to see me? Why did a stranger have to respect me before my own blood remembered I was worth respect? Amora looked confused. Tunde, what are you talking about? Tunde turned to her slowly. You mocked him. Her face went pale. What? When I came in, I heard laughter. I heard people talking. I heard someone say he should not embarrass you. Amora opened her mouth, then closed it. My father looked away. My mother lowered her head. Tunde's voice became colder. Do you know who your brother is? Nobody answered. I said, Tunde, leave it. But he shook his head. No, sir. With respect, no. He turned to Amora. You introduced me to your family as an officer. You were proud of that. But the man standing here is one of the reasons I am alive to wear anything that looks like honor. Amora whispered, I didn't know. Tunde's eyes did not soften. That is not an excuse to humiliate him. That sentence landed like thunder. That is not an excuse to humiliate him. My sister looked at me, and for the first time that evening, she saw me. Not my shirt. Not my shoes. Not the gift bag. Me. Her elder brother. The man who had stood silently in the corner while she laughed. My father tried to recover the room. Please, please, let us sit. We can talk. Today is a happy day. Tunde looked at him, and the respect in his face reduced slightly. With due respect, sir, it should have been happy before I arrived. A man should not need another man's title to be treated with dignity in his father's house. Nobody could reply. My Auntie Grace closed her eyes and nodded slowly. I looked at Tunde. That is enough, I said. He turned to me immediately. Yes, sir. That yes, sir finished what was left of my family's confidence. My mother finally came forward. Daniel, she said, her voice trembling, please sit down. It was the first soft word she had spoken to me that evening. I sat today. But I did not sit in the corner again. Tunde pulled a chair near the center and said, Sir, please sit here. That was when the whole arrangement changed. The same people who had laughed now started adjusting their chairs. The same relatives who ignored me began looking for ways to greet me. The same father who introduced me as security people now sat straighter. The same mother who looked away when I was mocked now kept staring at my face like she was seeing a wound she had helped create. Amora stood near Tunde, but her confidence had broken. The dinner continued, but nothing was the same. Food was served. People tried to talk. Someone made a joke, but nobody laughed properly. The room had become careful. Very careful. Respect that comes after shame is always awkward. Every sir sounded too loud. Every smile looked forced. Every glance carried questions. Who is Daniel really? What does he do? Why did Tunde salute him? Why did his family not know? Why did he never say anything? I ate quietly. Not because I was hungry. Because I needed something to do with my hands. The gift bag was still beside my chair. Tunde noticed it. Sir, is that yours? Yes, I said. I picked it up and handed it to him. I brought this for you. Congratulations. He collected it with both hands. Not one hand. Both hands. Like the gift was more valuable than it looked. Thank you, sir, he said. Amora stared at the bag like it had transformed into gold. Tunde opened it gently and saw the wristwatch. He smiled for the first time since recognizing me. This is beautiful. Amora quickly said, yes, it is nice. I looked at her. She stopped talking. Tunde removed the watch he was wearing and put mine on immediately. The room noticed. Of course they noticed. People who judge value by appearance always notice when someone they respect chooses what they dismissed. He raised his wrist slightly. I will wear this with pride. My throat tightened. I nodded. Thank you. For a moment, I was no longer angry. I was just tired. Tired of being misunderstood. Tired of being reduced. Tired of loving people who only recognized love when someone else announced it. After the meal, the formal introduction began. Families spoke. Prayers were said. Wine was presented. There was laughter again, but it was careful laughter. Amora knelt to serve drinks to elders. Her hands shook once when she passed near me. I pretended not to see. But I saw everything. Pain makes your eyes sharp. At some point, Tunde asked if he could speak. Everyone became attentive immediately. He stood up. I am grateful to be here today, he began. Your daughter is someone I care about deeply. I came here with joy, respect, and honor. He paused. Then he looked at me. But I also came here and found a man I owe more than words can explain. The room became still again. I knew what he wanted to do. I shook my head slightly. He saw it. But he continued carefully, without saying too much. Years ago, when I was still growing in service, I found myself in a situation I was not prepared for. Many people were afraid. Many people were confused. But one man stayed calm. One man carried responsibility like it was nothing. One man made sure others got home. He looked at me again. That man is here. Nobody breathed loudly. He did not ask me for anything after that. He did not use it to boast. He did not call me later to remind me. He simply moved on. That is the kind of man he is. My mother wiped her eye. My father looked down. Amora's lips trembled. Tunde faced the room fully. So before I speak about marriage, let me say this. Any family that has a man like Daniel should not hide him in the corner. You should be proud of him. That was when my mother started crying. Not loud crying. Quiet crying. The kind that comes when guilt finally finds space. My father covered his face with one hand. I looked away. I did not want to break down in front of everyone. I had survived too many hard places to cry because of words. But that evening, the hardest place was not far away. It was home. And the people who hurt me were not enemies. They were the people I had loved the longest. After the formal event ended, guests began leaving slowly. But nobody left without looking at me differently. Some came to shake my hand. Some called me sir. Some asked for my number. Some suddenly remembered we were related. An uncle who had ignored me for years came close and said, Daniel, you know we are proud of you. I looked at him and smiled. Thank you, uncle. He knew I did not believe him. I knew he knew. When most guests had gone, only close family remained. The house felt bigger and emptier. My mother was sitting on the sofa, holding a handkerchief. My father stood near the window. Amora was beside the dining table, still in her beautiful gold dress, but the shine around her had faded. Tunde stood near me, quiet and respectful. I knew the conversation was coming. My mother spoke first. Daniel. I looked at her. I am sorry. Those 3 words should have healed something. But healing is not always immediate. Sometimes an apology arrives at the door of a wound that has already built a house inside you. I nodded. She cried harder. I am sorry, my son. I did not know. I looked at her for a long moment. Mna, you did not need to know my rank to defend me. She covered her mouth. The room froze. I had never spoken to my mother like that before. Not rudely, but directly. There is a difference. I continued, quietly. You heard her insult me. You saw people laughing. You looked away. My mother broke down. My father turned from the window. Daniel, he said, your mother did not mean to hurt you. I looked at him. And you? He stopped. My voice remained calm. When that man asked if I was your first son, you answered like you were ashamed. My father swallowed. I was not ashamed. You were. He could not argue. You introduced me as someone working with security people, I said. You did not even say I serve. You did not say I work with government. You did not say anything with pride. Just security people. My father sat down slowly. The strength left his face. For the first time in years, he looked old to me. I did not understand your work, he said. You did not try to understand me. That one hurt him. I saw it. Good. Not because I wanted revenge, but because truth should touch the place excuses are hiding. Amora had not spoken yet. She stood still, tears running down her cheeks. Finally, she whispered, Brother Daniel. I turned to her. She had not called me that in years. I am sorry. I said nothing. She stepped closer. I am so sorry. I was stupid. I was proud. I did not know. Again. That phrase. I did not know. I looked at her and shook my head. Amora, when you were in school and needed money, did you know where it came from? She cried harder. No. When you called me at midnight because you were afraid you would be sent out of class, did you know what I sold to help you? She covered her mouth. No. When you graduated and everybody clapped, did you know I was standing at the back because my shoes had opened and I did not want people to see? She bent her head. No. I breathed in slowly. You did not know many things. But you knew I was your brother. That was the sentence that broke her. She knelt. Right there in her engagement dress. She knelt in front of me and held my hand. I forgot, she whispered. I forgot who you were to me. I tried to pull my hand away, but she held it tighter. I let people make me feel bigger than where I came from. I let success enter my head. I let shame replace gratitude. Brother Daniel, please forgive me. The room was silent. Tunde looked away respectfully. My mother cried openly. My father kept his head down. I looked at my sister kneeling before me, and for a moment, I did not see the proud woman who mocked me. I saw the little girl who used to run behind me shouting, "My big shield." And that memory hurt more than the insult. Because it reminded me that love does not disappear easily. Even when people damage it. I helped her stand. I forgive you, I said. She tried to hug me, but I stepped back gently. I forgive you, I repeated. But things cannot continue the same way. She nodded quickly. I know. No, I said. Listen. She became still. Forgiveness does not mean you can humiliate me today and smile with me tomorrow like nothing happened. I need space. I need you to learn. Not because Tunde respects me. Not because everyone now knows there is more to my life. But because no human being deserves what you did tonight. She nodded, crying. Yes. I turned to my parents. And both of you need to understand something. I may be your son, but I am also a person. I have feelings. I get tired. I feel shame. I feel pain. I just don't make noise about it. My mother whispered, my son. I raised my hand gently. Please. Let me finish. She became quiet. I have spent most of my life trying not to burden this family. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I made silence look like weakness. Maybe I made sacrifice look easy. But I will not continue begging for respect in my own home. My father's eyes were wet. I am sorry, Daniel, he said. It was the first time I had heard my father apologize to me. Not indirectly. Not through my mother. Directly. I nodded. Thank you, Papa. He stood up slowly. I failed you. Nobody spoke. He continued, voice low. When you stopped school, I told myself you were strong. When you started working, I told myself you were managing. When you sent money, I collected it and said you were trying. I never asked what it cost you. He wiped his face. I let your sacrifice become normal. That sentence entered me deeply. I let your sacrifice become normal. That was exactly it. People will keep taking from you when they get used to your giving. Not always because they are wicked. Sometimes because your pain is too quiet to disturb them. My father walked to me and placed his hand on my shoulder. I am sorry, my son. This time, I did not move away. For a few seconds, we stood like that. Father and son. Separated by years of silence. Connected by one painful evening. After some time, Tunde cleared his throat gently. Sir, he said to me, may I speak with you outside? I nodded. We stepped into the compound. The night air was cool. Most of the chairs outside were empty now. A few disposable cups rolled gently near the gate. The celebration had ended, but its shadow remained. Tunde stood beside me in silence for a moment. Then he said, I am sorry you had to go through that. I looked at him. You did nothing wrong. I know. But still. I smiled faintly. You always were too serious. He laughed softly. I learnt from you. We stood quietly. Then he said, Sir, I did not know Amora was your sister. I did not know you were her fiancé. He nodded. Life is strange. Very. He looked toward the house. She is not a bad person. I know. But she was wrong. I know that too. He hesitated. I hope this does not change your blessing. I looked at him. There it was. The real reason he brought me outside. He wanted my blessing. Not my permission as a legal authority. Not my approval as a decorated officer. My blessing as her elder brother. The same elder brother she had mocked. I looked through the window and saw Amora sitting beside my mother, crying quietly. I thought of everything. Her laughter. Her words. Her pride. But I also thought of her childhood. Her dreams. Her mistakes. Her apology. Then I looked at Tunde. Do you love her? Yes, sir. Enough to correct her when pride enters her head? Yes, sir. Enough to stand by her without worshipping her mistakes? Yes, sir. Enough to build a home where nobody is treated as small because they look simple? He looked me in the eye. Yes, sir. I nodded. Then you have my blessing. His shoulders relaxed. Thank you, sir. But Tunde. Yes, sir. If she ever forgets kindness again, remind her gently first. He nodded. And if she refuses to remember, remind her firmly. For the first time that evening, we both smiled. When we returned inside, everyone looked up. Tunde walked to Amora and stood before her. She rose slowly. He took her hand. I still want to marry you, he said. She began crying again. But I need you to understand something. The way you treated your brother today must never enter our home. She nodded quickly. It won't. I do not want a wife who respects uniforms but dishonors people. That sentence made everyone still. Amora nodded, tears falling. I understand. No, he said gently. I need you to become the kind of person who understands even when no one is watching. She whispered, I will. Then she turned to me. Brother Daniel, please, I know I don't deserve it, but will you still stand with me? I looked at her. There was a time when she did not need to ask. There was a time when standing with her was my natural position. But now she was asking because she knew she had broken something. I walked closer. I will stand with you, I said. But not as the brother you can hide in the corner. She shook her head. Never again. And not as someone you remember only when shame teaches you. She nodded. Never again. Then yes. I will stand with you. She hugged me. This time, I allowed it. Her body shook as she cried against my chest. I am sorry, she kept saying. I am sorry. I am sorry. I did not say it was okay. Because it was not okay. Some things are forgiven before they are okay. But I placed one hand gently on her back. And for that moment, it was enough. The wedding happened 3 months later. But things were different after that engagement night. Amora changed. Not perfectly. People do not become humble overnight. But she started trying. She called more often. Not only when she needed something. Sometimes she called just to ask, Brother Daniel, have you eaten? The first time she asked that, I did not know what to say. Such a small question. But when you have been ignored for years, small care can sound strange. My father also changed. He started introducing me differently. Not with exaggerated pride. Not with fake noise. Just properly. This is my first son, Daniel. He serves the country. The first time he said it, I saw his eyes search my face, as if asking whether that was better. It was. My mother became softer around me. Sometimes too soft. She would pack food for me like I was traveling to another planet. She would call and ask if I needed anything. She would pray longer than usual. Guilt had made her careful. I did not punish her for it. But I did not rush the healing either. Healing needs truth. And time. As for me, I learnt something that season. Silence is powerful, But silence can also teach people the wrong lesson. When you never speak about your pain, some people assume you do not feel any. When you keep showing up for people who disrespect you, they may start believing disrespect has no consequence. When you carry everyone quietly, they may forget you are also human. I am still quiet. That did not change. But I no longer use silence to protect people from the truth. If something hurts me now, I say it. Calmly. Clearly. Without begging. Without shouting. Because dignity does not always need noise. But it does need boundaries. On Amora's wedding day, I wore a dark suit. Not because I wanted to impress anybody, but because I wanted to honor the day properly. When I arrived, people greeted me differently. Some too respectfully. Some nervously. Some with that fake excitement people use when they suddenly discover you are not as ordinary as they thought. I did not let it enter my head. Respect that comes from discovery is not always the same as respect that comes from love. But I accepted the greetings. During the reception, Amora asked me to walk her part of the way before our father handed her over formally. It was her idea. She said, "You carried me before I knew how to stand. You should walk with me before I enter my new home." I nearly refused. Not because I did not love her, but because public gestures can sometimes feel like repayment made for an audience. Then she came to me privately before the ceremony. No cameras. No makeup team. No friends. Just her. She held my hands and said, "Brother Daniel, I am not doing this so people can clap. I am doing it because I remember now." That was when I agreed. So I walked with her. Slowly. The hall was full. Music played softly. People stood. Amora held my arm tightly. Halfway down the aisle, she whispered, "My big shield." I looked at her. For a second, she was little again. And I was young again. And life had not yet taught us how easily love can be buried under pride. I smiled. "My stubborn girl," I whispered back. She laughed through tears. At the front, Tunde stood waiting. When we reached him, he did not salute this time. He bowed his head slightly. Not to the officer. Not to the title. But to the brother. That meant more. I placed Amora's hand in his. "Take care of her," I said. "With my life," he replied. Then he looked at her and added, "And I will also remind her when she starts talking too much." The people close enough to hear laughed. Even Amora laughed. This time, her laughter did not hurt. At the reception, my father gave a speech. He talked about family. He talked about mistakes. He talked about how sometimes the strongest people in a home are the ones nobody claps for. Then he looked at me. "My son Daniel taught me that sacrifice should never be treated as ordinary." The room applauded. I lowered my head. Not because I was shy. Because I needed to hold myself together. Later that evening, Amora danced with Tunde. My mother danced too. My father laughed more freely than I had seen in years. Auntie Grace came to sit beside me. She smiled. "Do you remember what I told you that night?" I looked at her. Some people only respect noise. They don't respect sacrifice. She nodded. "And what do you think now?" I looked at my family. Then I looked at my sister, smiling in her wedding dress, holding the hand of a man who knew both honor and humility. I think sacrifice must learn to speak before bitterness speaks for it. Auntie Grace smiled. "That is wisdom." Maybe it was. Or maybe it was just pain that had finally found language. Years have passed since that engagement dinner. People still tell the story in the family. But they tell it differently depending on who is speaking. Some say, "That was the day we discovered Daniel was important." I do not like that version. Because I was important before Tunde saluted me. I was important when I carried bags in the market to pay school fees. I was important when I skipped meals so Amora could have transport money. I was important when I stood at the back of her graduation hall with broken shoes. I was important when nobody clapped. I was important when nobody knew. That is what people often get wrong. A title does not create your worth. A uniform does not create your dignity. Money does not create your value. Recognition only reveals what was already there. The painful part is that some people will never see you clearly until someone they respect points at you and says, "This person matters." But you must never wait for that moment to believe it yourself. If your family does not see your value, it does not mean you have none. If people mock your simplicity, it does not mean you are small. If you sacrifice quietly and nobody thanks you, it does not mean the sacrifice was meaningless. But hear me clearly. Do not lose yourself trying to be the invisible pillar in everybody's life. A pillar also cracks. A strong person also gets tired. A giver also needs care. A quiet heart also breaks. I still love my family. I love my father. I love my mother. I love my sister. But I no longer confuse love with silent suffering. I no longer sit in corners where I am being tolerated. I no longer shrink myself so people can feel comfortable disrespecting me. And I no longer wait for someone else to prove that I deserve honor. That engagement dinner changed many things. It changed how my family saw me. It changed how Amora saw herself. It changed how my father understood sacrifice. It changed how my mother listened when someone was being insulted. But most of all, it changed me. Because that night, when my sister laughed and the room laughed with her, I felt something inside me almost break. Then Tunde walked in, saw me, and saluted. For everyone else, that salute revealed my status. For me, it revealed something deeper. It revealed how long I had been waiting for permission to stand tall in my own life. And from that day, I stopped waiting. So if you are listening to this, and you are the one your family overlooks, the one they call when they need help but forget when it is time to give honor, remember this. You are not small because they treat you casually. You are not useless because your success is quiet. You are not a failure because your journey does not look impressive to people who only respect noise. But also remember this. Do not let humility become self-erasure. Do not let love become permission for disrespect. Do not let family become the place where your dignity goes to die. Stand, even if your voice shakes. Speak, even if they are not used to hearing you. Walk away when you must. Forgive when you can. But never again beg anyone to see the value that life has already placed inside you. Because one day, the same people who laughed when you entered the room may become silent when the truth walks in behind you. And when that day comes, do not use it only for revenge. Use it to remember who you are. I was Daniel Okafor before the salute. I was Daniel Okafor after the salute. The only difference was that, finally, everyone else saw what silence had been carrying all along.